back to another C word, CORU, today. So, and they are inside. I hope you got a chance to see. They're all here, the exhibitors. Even the CEO came down as well to support us if anybody has any questions. It's not great for the moment. We've only got 1,674 registered, which isn't great. And we only have another 1,686 in the system. So that's 3,500. So that's quite poor. We thought we'd have 8,000 to 10,000 originally. So I'm not sure what is going on in the sector. I suppose there's a lot of variables with our title being one critical problem. People, I hope, now know if you're using the title social care worker, it's a protected title, you have to register. There is no getting away from it. But I suppose it's all the other variations, the project worker, the community support worker. But there is an opportunity at the moment for you to register, and the clock is ticking. This will be our last time talking about it actually at a conference, because registration closes in November. And just to say that it will not be extended. So when it closes on the 30th of November, that's it. Now, if you're already in the system and you're given a number, an application number, you're fine. You can still work, you can still practice. It could take another 6 months to a year for you to, have that process completed, and that's okay, but you have to be in the system. So you're an existing practitioner, a Section 91, everybody needs to register. So we have, and I just wanted to thank the educators as well, because I've been going around doing a lot of talks, and it's been a great way of connecting with the practice supervisors, because if you want to take a student, you have to be a registered social care worker. So again, there's just those little things that some people aren't getting. So if you can spread the word, and obviously we have a crisis with recruitment, and we do not want to lose these placements. So there has to be somebody there in order to supervise that student. We do have John McHugh down in St. Pat's in Carlow College doing a piece of research around long-armed supervision as well. So we're hoping he'll be able to gather some data, because other sectors do that as well, like social work and occupational therapy do that. If there's nobody there in that unit to supervise the student, there's a concept of long-armed supervision where somebody can come in, supervise them, they don't have to necessarily work there. So again, we're just trying to broaden our ability to keep these placements going, because it's really, really important to have social care in these emerging practice areas as well. So the assessment of professional competency. So we still have the 5 eligible routes. You still have your approved qualifications, the CORU approved programs. You still have your Schedule 3, that are the old social care or childcare programs and diplomas. You have your sufficiently relevant qualification. So they have furnished a list. CORU have got a list of these now. But if you come along and you have a qualification and it's not listed there, that's okay. They're still adding to that list. So don't be thrown by that. But there's no psychology in there, there's no teaching. I did see community and youth, but the rest are all different variations of social care programs that have kind of changed over the decades. And they've allowed for that change because there's just such a huge area of education in the country. When you compare it to social work, there's only 4 courses. So we had only 42 programs. So it was quite a large volume to go through. And then if you didn't find, so that's 3 I went through. The 4th one then is if you didn't find your qualification there, you can have your employer's opinion of competence done. Again, just from going around the country, if people are using the title social care worker, a lot of organisations are filling that out. Because again, remember, it's through the lens of the standards of proficiency, which is the baseline. This is what new graduates are expected to achieve coming out of a 3-year program. Somebody with experience is obviously working higher than that, because they have the experience. So that's the 4th one. And then, so if somebody's called a project worker, and rightly so, because your employer's not obligated to fill out the employer's opinion of competence either. It's on a goodwill. So if somebody's called a project worker, there is a bit of, should I fill it out? I know if I was a social care leader or manager trying to fill that out, I would kind of grapple with that. And if that happens, you can still have an assessment done, and that's the one that was put out to tender. and TU Shannon got that. So it's a 2-hour case study exam, and then it's a 45-minute multiple choice. So if you do fall into that category, that would be the expectation. And it will be based on the standards of proficiency and the code of professional conduct and ethics. They're the 2 tools that they'll be using for that. It is an additional fee of €300. It has reduced from 400. And again, if you fall into that category, there is a resource on the Social Care Ireland webpage. It's an ebook on the standards of proficiency that Dr. Denise Lyons and Dr. Teresa Brown co-edited. They got people from practice to write each standard as a chapter. So if you are kind of struggling, going, what does that mean? How do I interpret that legislation into my practice? It's a really resourceful tool to kind of just upskill around the language. The language has become a bit of a barrier for some people. Like I said, they're not changing. Registration is closing on the 30th of November this year. There's no extension, okay? Just to clarify that. The statutory documents as well, just was recently given a talk and somebody said, no, the guards can sign some of your forms. The Gardaí can, but they can't sign the declaration, the statutory declaration. That has to be a peace commissioner or commissioner votes. So just to clarify that as well, that there is something there that you can use. So there's 7 things that you need to be organised, I suppose, before you sit down to register. I mean, could I ask in the room who has registered here? Well, it's not bad. Very good. Deadly. Okay. Hey. Brilliant. So, and is it as hard as you think it is? Yes. Brilliant. Okay. And what's hard about it? Is it hard because just getting paperwork in order? The forms aren't accessible. I had to print them and handwrite on them, yeah. Yeah, yeah. But sorry?
The notaries for the forms, they don't understand the forms.
Yeah. So this.
They're absolutely like mind-boggling.
You right? Yeah. Okay. Upload. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that. And as well, if you're filling out the proof of employment, which is the first form, it's a 2-page document. Like when I filled it out, I put down, because my 2 out of 5 years practice is with Social Care Ireland, so I put down I was the CPD coordinator, and that was accepted. But now if somebody doesn't put down social care worker and they put whatever other title they have, you have to upload your job specification. So that's definitely new, they've gone through all the applications. And a lot of HR, I suppose, are the ones that are filling that out, or the line managers. But again, you have 7 things. One of them is your ID. It can be your driver's license, passport. But again, if you're using your married name, maiden name, you do have to upload your marriage cert as well as proof. Your proof of employment, which eligible route you're going for. You have to have €100 on your card because it's all online system. Keep your receipt, you get 20% back on your VAT and your tax. Your proof of address. So again, these are documents that you have at home. You just need to be organised, and it has to be within the last 6 months. There is an e-vetting invitation letter as well. So again, that can be quite stressful for people depending on that process, but you all have been through a vetting process. So again, that consideration will delay depending, if you've lived abroad and all of that. So yeah, so we are concerned about the lack of uptake, and just the consequence of that is that this is finishing in November. And now that a lot of people have left it towards the end, there is going to be a backlog, and it is going to take longer. So just to sort of reiterate and put the word out there, how important it is for our students to be in these emerging practice areas, and they can register under these different titles. So just to consider that. And it is something that we offer as well, to go around and talk to teams around that, or colleges as well. So you can just link in with Social Care Ireland, CPD at Social Care Ireland, if that's something that you think would be of value to your team. Backwards. Right. Okay. Power of communication, I suppose. It's just it's great to see everybody here. When I started 8 years ago, we shy of 200. We had dinner for like 30 or 40 people. We have 170 people coming for dinner this evening. Our award ceremony as well. So we just want to really thank you guys for supporting us year on out, and spreading the word, and our mentorship programs, and just turning up to events like this. It's so important, because it's these events that you get to network, you get to share your ideas and be creative with your like-minded peers and your colleagues. And as well, the whole point of my role, I suppose, the continuous professional development, is to see what are the gaps in people's skills and knowledge, and see if we can provide training and workshops to meet those gaps. So it's an additional resource that you can tap into as part of your professional body. You don't have to be relying on your organisation, where sometimes you're told we don't have the resources for that, or they may not value that. So you can step away from that and say, well, actually, I can go to the professional body. As a professional body, then, we do stuff that's discipline specific, but we also do a lot of stuff that's interdisciplinary. And our funders are through the National Health and Social Care Professionals Office. Has anybody heard of this office? Yeah, maybe? And they apologise for not being here today. They just couldn't get here today. They normally attend our conference. So this is where we get our funding stream. So again, I'm the only employee in Social Care Ireland. We rely on volunteers. So we would need you guys to support us. That's why our fee is €50 a year, or €5 a month. But it has a lot of value, because it means we can bring people in to help us with projects. Even, you may have heard me talk about the social ability project that we've been securing funding through the lottery for the last couple of years. And these are people with intellectual disabilities. It's a self-advocacy group. And we have Josephine McLaughlin in place there for the last, it happened during COVID. When was that? 5-6 years ago or something. So she's still in place, and we're still getting that funding. And the Irish Association of Social Care Managers put funding into it this year as well. So we're so grateful to keep that project going. And then this year, the Disability Special Interest Group had their own conference, and that group spoke at it. And people listened to them. So what an amazing opportunity. They were paid for that. It had value, it had meaning, and they were able to, we could learn from them about what that role meant to them, to be part of that self-advocacy group, and the different projects that they were working on in their local community. It's in Carlow, Kilkenny. So what an amazing opportunity as a participant to listen to a life story. And this year we're actually secured, so sorry, I'll just step back. So usually we put out a survey at the last quarter of the year to our members to gather up what are the skills, what are the gaps in your skills and knowledge. I put applications together, I apply to this office, they go through them, and then we secure additional funding. So we got €33,500 to put on those events then this year, and they're usually free to our members. So again, that's just been added on and added on every year. I'm going backwards again, sorry. These are some of the events that we ran last year. I love Carol Duffy. She's worked for TUSLA for years. She's a play therapist. That was discipline specific. We turned it into disciplinary because we actually had such an appetite from the other disciplines wanting to learn from social care. Yay! It's usually the other way around. So we've really seen a development in that, and we're now running that 3 times a year, you know, purely to meet that demand. Now, it's a small group, but nonetheless. The leadership as well, Gerald Hardy is great. We've talked about perspectives throughout the day today. And I remember one training that he did, he was like, think about yourself on a dance floor. I love dancing. And, you know, you're thinking about the hair and the smells and the bags and the shoes, and you're, you know, are you really tight or you've got space? And then you think about, well, what about if you put yourself up on the balcony now? How does that change your perspective? What can you see now? can see bigger space, can't you? You can see the bar, you can see more people. So just found that really interesting. I did that training years ago, and it still percolates in my head when I'm thinking about things and trying to mull over, could I have a different perspective, which our keynotes we're talking about today. So that's a great workshop. It's not all theory driven again, it's about how we think about things. Karen Traisman, we've done so much on trauma, but again, you can never have enough on trauma, and she does different perspectives. And last year's was around the intergenerational trauma. And that was a full day, and we had over 160 people at that online from all different types of professions. They're working effectively with intellectual disabilities. That's a great one. If you work in disabilities and we have an aging cohort and you're kind of struggling sometimes with the language around if somebody has a particular condition, and as they age, things might come out in different ways. So we felt there was a bit of a gap there around having that knowledge and that language with the medical and the social care. So that's it's a 7-day workshop. It's not consecutive days, it's over different weeks. And it's a great way, again, of just kind of getting used to that medical language and how you collect that data if you do need to report back, say, maybe to doctors and stuff like that. What's important? What are the pieces? And I suppose that being creative is so important there as well, isn't it, what we were talking about today? Motivational interviewing, solution-focused brief therapy, they're all about change, setting little goals. How do people achieve goals? So again, if you're working with clients and you're finding that there's resistance, or you're not managing to kind of build that trust, or there's barriers there, and you're kind of thinking, what's going on here? They are brilliant training. Again, they're only 20 people. A great way of you looking at a question differently and see if you can reframe that question. The social role valorization, again, my background is in disabilities. I worked there for 20 years as a social care worker. Love this training. It's all around normalization theory, around, if you think about myself, I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a cousin, I'm a sister, I'm a neighbour. I have so many social roles. And then when you think of somebody with a disability who might be in a sheltered accommodation or institutionalised care, we do still have some large institutions. And when you think about their social roles and how some of them are so small. And they nearly rely on staff being their friends rather than having those valued social roles. So great way, again, of getting you to kind of think critically at how we can do things differently. How am I for time? Am I okay? Okay. So, going to jump onto this. This was my little creative piece. So delighted to work with Dr. Denise Lyons is my principal supervisor. We've got Hazel and Dean as well, and it's in SETU in Carlow. I think I'm in the 6th year. Yes, I think I'm in the 6th year. So I'm doing case study research. I'm looking at the history of social care education. And we got an opportunity for funding from Stable and SETU to put a documentary together and look at the first case. So the first case looked at the first programme, which was in Kilkenny. So this would have been set up from our residential or industrial, reformatory schools, and the litany of abuse that kind of happened in these large institutions, and how they were deinstitutionalised for more group homes. So this was happening in the early 70s. And then we had Justice Eileen Kennedy, who did a report on these large institutions. From that report then, it was decided to start training lay people, because prior to this it would have been predominantly religious orders that would have worked in these institutions. So there's kind of two things going on, the education and then group homes in the community. So I had the privilege then of interviewing some graduates from that original program, which was pretty cool. And Pat Brennan, who was the founder of one of the directors of that course, and Sister Stanulus. She runs Focus Ireland. So we got to interview both of them and these 14 participants from the Kilkenny programme. So what we did in the documentary then was we give you a little bit of a history of social care provision, and then we got some of the new graduates. They might be here. I met some of them earlier on, 3rd years from SETU. They kindly read the quotes from the original participants from the 70s, and we wanted to see, would some of the stuff from the past resonate with the current students? So we have some of the current third-year students talking about the quote that they picked and how it resonated with them. So it's kind of cool. So it's a 45-minute documentary. It is going to be on the SCI website. I'm going to show you a 2-minute little short trailer of it. Tomorrow, myself and Denise are going to be playing it in the morning. I can't remember which one we were in. It's at 10:30, yes. And I suppose to go back then to the standards of proficiency was like you need to identify and understand social care history, Domain 5, SOP 14. So it is there in the SOPs as well, how important that this is. So, keep going the wrong way. Okay, bear with me. This is only 2 minutes.
Pat Brennan and Sister Stanislaus Kennedy. They came together with Bishop Burke and they created an education programme because they wanted to make a difference.
I remember one Christian brother telling me that he was in charge of a dormitory of 120 boys, and he'd hear some little fella crying and he wouldn't know who it was. And how sad, how dreadful the loneliness and the potential for bullying, and we know also that was brutal and abusive things going on in some of these institutions. But on the other hand then, there were many nuns and brothers and priests who did the best as they could without any support and without any training and with great goodwill. Some of the nuns were absolutely marvellous because they had the instinct for what the child needed.
Certainly they needed to want to work in it. They needed to like children. They needed to be people who were aware of the needs of children, who were able to think outside the box, who were able to work with children who had difficulties, troubled children, and who understood those troubled children and who were able to help them.
So after the famine, Ireland experienced enormous hardships, and the Institutes for Care played a pivotal role in alleviating these hardships. We have an enormous amount of children in state care and living in poverty. So it was recognised that these institutes for children were needed, but also what was needed was reform of the legislation. If a child was convicted of a crime, they could be sent to an adult prison.
I think we all need to question ourselves all the time about our values and how easy it is for us to look at people and say, you're deserving of our care and our help, and you people over there are not deserving. And I think that this is as relevant today as it was in the 1700s and 1800s when our social care provision started. 3 people went from nothing to start a programme that now has courses all over Ireland with students graduating and going out now being on a registered programme. So this is how far we have come since our beginning in 1971.
Yay.
Pat Brennan and Sister Stanislaus.
So delighted. That took 6 months putting that together. Now obviously that's only a snippet, and it is 45 minutes, but it's free and we're going to have it up on the webpage so you can access it. I'm going to finish off now with 2 more slides, and then we're going to have Jimmy and Joshua come in and do a performance for you. So thank you for continuing to listen. Again, we've alluded to this today, how important reflective practice is. It's key for creativity and critical thinking. Again, it comes under your code. So again, we're all registered, yeah? So we've gotten to that point. And once you're registered, you adhere to your code of professional conduct and ethics. Section 10, you must engage in CPD. So that's just the importance of where that comes. It's a legal binding document. It's out there already. So that's just to understand where this CPD comes from. And what underpins it is CORU would be looking for, say, 30 credits a year. This does not kick in till after registration. So December this year to December the following year is the CPD auditing year where you collect these credits. 1 hour of new learning is 1 credit, but it's not the time that you've given to something, it's the value of the learning. So it's not the time per se, it's the value. So it's slightly different the way medical practitioners would work. They could go to a 2-hour conference on, say, a new epilepsy drug as a nurse. They could just say, give me the cert, I attended, and that's enough. When CORU came to look at all the health and social care professionals, because we are so broad, we've 26 different professions, whereas nursing, it's nursing or midwives. So they're quite similar. Whereas for CORU, it was like, well, how do we understand that it's all these different schools of knowledge, but yet we need a commonality, and the commonality is the reflective piece. So if you've attended this conference and you want to go back to your teams and discuss what you learned today, that's reflection. If you're out in the hallway here and you've met somebody and you're discussing something, that's reflection. You can use whatever you like. The hard part is sitting down and writing it. That's always the hard part, isn't it? So having a systematic approach to it is really, really helpful. A lot of people are putting that into their supervision. Going to supervision, filling out a reflective practice tool. I put this up here. This is an e-learning module. There's loads of reflective practice tools up there. Because again, when I'm talking to new graduates and existing practitioners, there's a bit of a gap in people's skills and knowledge, because our new graduates are coming off these approved programs. They are all over reflective practice and the standards. They understand it within an inch of their lives. They understand that. And then if you haven't been in formal education in a while, there's a bit of a gap with saying, oh, what's going on here? So I suppose that's where hopefully we come in and run some workshops around that. And we do have Dr. Nicola O'Sullivan and Adrian McKenna, not sure if he's here in the room, are going to be running some reflective practice workshops for us in order to meet that gap. So again, I was off for a little while, so apologies. We would normally have a lot of our CPD planned, so we will, that'll be the next thing, we'll have a lot of that planned, and you'll see some of that then on the webpage, some events that are coming up. Okay. And then trends, again, you will see similarities here. And the reason being is, I suppose, is trying to build up a community of practice in these areas, because like that, some of them are only 20 participants, so they're quite small. So that's why we found that we're kind of building up on different themes and trying to, disabilities and young people, it's quite broad. Social care is, as you know. I meant to say as well that our conference next year is going to be in Limerick, in the Radisson Blue. The 25th, 26th of March. Yay, you don't have to travel, whoever live, you must obviously live down there, do you? Yeah, I believe some people got 4 or 5 hour car journeys to get here, which, is commendable, and we really appreciate your support continuously to support Social Care Ireland and to run these sort of events. So